Who is Andy Strote? Are you ready to answer some quick fire questions? Welcome to the JOD Pod, a micro podcast where we interview CEOs, founders, entrepreneurs, authors, and coaches. Today we are joined by Andy Strote, author of How to Start a Successful Creative Agency. Great to have you with us today, Andy.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
It's a bit of a milestone for us because you are our first author on the
Ah,
podcast. So
I'm pleased.
we're very blessed for you to join us. I appreciate that. For those of us who don't know who you are, who is Andy Strote? What are you all about?
Ah, well, most recently an author, How to Start a Successful Creative Agency. Before that, many years in advertising. Started out as a copywriter, so for all the copywriters out there, hello. Worked at 6 agencies, both local and international agencies. After that, worked 6 years solo freelance, mostly out of my home. Got so busy doing that, I was fortunate to have good corporate clients to the point where I could work as long as I could stay awake. And at that point, I decided to start an agency. I didn't really plan too much around that. I somehow, not that I did it on a whim, but I just decided it's time for a next step to grow. And I put an ad in a local publication looking for a partner. So in my agency life, I was always used to working with a partner. I always had an art director partner, and we always work as a team. And so I was quite comfortable doing that. And I thought, that's what I want. I want a graphic designer, art director partner in this. And I wanted somebody who had business experience also in helping to run the company, and somebody who had already also freelance clients that they would bring to the company. Because I mean, I didn't have real business experience, but I had my 6 years of freelance experience. So you're kind of running your one person business, as it were. But that's what I looked for. Anyways, I put out the ad. I got 30 responses, people who are interested in this in some fashion. I met with 5 of them, and then I chose one. An English gentleman who came to Canada because he's also a photographer and wanted to go up shooting in the Rockies and so on, but ended up in Toronto. The Rockies are a great distance away from Toronto. But anyways, here he was, and he had an agency in the UK, and we got along fine. We met a few times, and then we decided before we formalize anything, why don't we do a few projects together? And so he had clients where he was doing the design and could get me in to do the writing. I had clients where I was doing the writing and got him to do the design, just to see how we work together, to see that we sort of charged and billed at sort of equivalent rates, that it made sense, that we were together, and see how we got on. A couple months later, we decided we got on just fine. We incorporated a company. We took office space, so it wasn't a work from home situation, because we knew even in our discussion that even though the company was just the 2 of us when we started, it wouldn't be the 2 of us. We knew we wanted a bigger company. So the first office space we took had room for 7 people. We built out little offices and furnished them and bought chairs and all that stuff. For a while we sublet that space, but within a year we had 7 people, and kept growing. And then fortunately, the building we were in, which was sort of an old renovated loft building in downtown Toronto, had a lot of small companies, and then at the right time our neighbors moved out. So we said to the landlord, we'll take that. Anyways, long story short, within 5 years, we had grown from 2 people to 30 of us,
Wow.
which was mostly designers, project managers, account people, then our accounting people, and so on, copywriters. And within a period of months, we had 2 offers of larger companies wanting to buy us. One was a multinational agency based in New York, and one was an IT company based in Montreal. Without getting into all of the details, the New York company was kind of interesting. They flew us to New York for a big meeting. They were very interested. The Montreal, the IT company, they were just faster. It was also a publicly listed company, so they would pay us in shares that were trading on the Toronto Stock Exchange. So we took that offer. So we sold our company after 5 years for $3 million. And unfortunately, the company that acquired us wasn't great at integrating. So they were on a buying spree. They bought companies, seems like one every week, but were lousy at integrating. Anyways, as often happens in these things, after 6 months, I was free to do whatever I wanted to do. We all got paid, but anyways, now you're back on your own. So with another partner from my first agency, I formed the second agency. So the first agency was called Fireworks Creative. The second agency was called Context Creative. Context Creative is still in business today. So we grew, again, Context Creative, we grew from two of us to 28 of us. And I retired from that a few years ago. But Context Creative is still in business, doing great. Changing as they need to change with the changes in the media and the changes in the creative requirements of the clients, and so since then, I did a lot of traveling, did a lot of thinking, and started to write this book. I was also working for a few clients along the way, and I started just making notes. I mean, I've always been writing, so this comes pretty easily to me, pretty naturally. And I sort of had these ideas of what I thought might be a book. I don't even know when I started if I thought it was going to be a book. I just started writing these things. And then there was a break of about a year because I was really busy on a big project, which just took up all my time. And then I came back to it and looked at it again and just reevaluated. Thought, is this any good? Should it maybe just be a blog? I mean, maybe that's what it should be, or tweets. I don't know. But I thought, no, there's enough here. Could be a book. And so then I started organizing like a table of contents. So first I like to get stuff out just so I don't forget it, and just get it out, and knowing I can go back and edit at any time. So as a copywriter for all those years, you learn not to be precious about your words. Clients change them. Your designer partner wants you to change them. Loads of reasons for them changed, and you just roll with it. And I'm comfortable doing that. And I'm also comfortable doing various versions. I'll try something. If it's not quite working, I'll set it aside. I'll take another run at it. So I would end up with lots of versions of things, edits, and so on. It's just a matter of keeping it organized, know what you want to keep, and later what you want to throw out. But I actually don't throw out anything because you never know when you want to go back to it. So I'll keep versions of things. So here's version 10, here's version 11, and so on. And programs have nice compare these document features, so you know what's different about them, and that's what you do. Anyway. Organized the table of contents, pulled all together what I thought would make a decent book, worked on it a number of times. Then I got a few people to read it, people I knew. In retrospect, I wish I had more people read it, get more feedback, but you learn as you go. And after that, I hired a professional editor to go through it. That was an interesting experience to get feedback from somebody like that. And after I integrated those changes, then I hired a professional proofreader, just all the little nitty bits and so on. And she was great. I mean, things like, on page 220 you call it this, but on page 53 you called it that. Not quite the same. What do you want, right? I'm thinking, wow, okay, I didn't even know I had that on page 53, but sure. So this is perfect. This is exactly what I wanted, and then just vague, little grammar things and so on. Um, and then I had a final version of it. Uh, I formatted it myself. There's a great piece of software called Vellum that will format books for all the different platforms. Amazon has their own platform, and then Kobo and Apple Books, and then if you want to do a print version of the book, and so on, gives you lots of options, templates for type and so on. Did that. Uh, Built my own website, started my own Twitter account. So I've basically done all of these things. I write blog posts, which also go out as emails now, and keep promoting the book that way. So that's been a journey. It's interesting. It's interesting to get feedback from people. I've gotten very very nice feedback from people. A woman in particular, a consultant in the UK, said, "Oh, I've just launched my company this last week," and she left a corporate position, and she said, "Oh, this is just what I was looking for, and it's got lots of things I've already put into use, and thank you very much," and so on. So it's interesting as a writer to hear that from people.
That's wonderful that you've managed to inspire someone that's just making that, that is an earlier point on the journey to where you are at. And that's almost exactly why you have a book, isn't it? To help, to stand on the shoulder of giants and to follow along with them.
Yeah. Well, so you see, there are a lot of freelancers out there, people working solo by themselves, right? So there are writers and copywriters and designers and programmers and so on, photographers, filmmakers, and everything. And I mean, I did that for a number of years too. But I think, and I mean, this is my ad for my book, obviously, there's so much more potential and power when you team up. And even if you keep it to two people, and you form a company, you know, uh, it's different. Otherwise, if you're a solo freelancer, you're just a guy, a man or woman, doing whatever service that you provide. As soon as you have a corporate name, um, it takes it one step removed from that, because people, I mean, they might ask you, "Oh, wow, you got this company. Well, how many of there are you?" "Oh, well, two or one or whatever." But it's just different. It's just a different feel, and I don't think you can know that until you actually do it. And
Sure.
once you do it, and once you present yourself that way, it's different. And that's where
Mm.
my little, comment is always 1 plus 1 equals 3, and the three is the company, you know.
I can totally see. Are you ready to answer some rapid fire questions?
Absolutely, go for it.
Fantastic. What's your favorite app or SaaS product that you use every day?
Well, I looked at that, and mostly very very traditional. I mean, the app that I work in all day long is Microsoft Word. Really old school. Not a SaaS product, obviously. For photography, Adobe Lightroom. Edit my own photography, so I also take pictures. I use all the Google apps, and I'm just starting to use Notion now. I haven't made a complete switch to it. I just saw so many people talking about it, and then I asked a few people on Twitter about it, and answers sounded interesting, and I'm just starting to dip my feet into that. But
Notion is really interesting. I actually run a Kanban board within Notion to run the
yeah,
podcast. Andy, apart from your own, what's your most recommended book?
generally what I tell people in business is to read non-business books, is to read something else. Read fiction, read biography, memoirs. I have a lot of art books. I'm interested in sort of art history, as it were, and current contemporary art. Um, right now what I'm reading is a book called Wagnerism, which is about Richard Wagner, composer, who, but the book is not a biography, it's his influence on all the other arts. So this guy was a giant in his time, and it influenced everything from writers to poets to painters and so on. So it's a bit of a dense book, but I like it. The other book I'm reading is a biography of Paul McCartney, uh, called Fab. Guy has led an interesting life for sure. Business books, I'm reading Atomic Habits by James Clear. Uh, Interesting book. And I've been reading The Embedded Entrepreneur, my friend Arvid, who's done a great job at launching that book, and a very interesting platform, very interesting ideas of how to launch a business.
Are there any podcasts or YouTube channels that you tune into regularly?
My first partner in fireworks, Simon Byrne, he has become, I mean, he was also a great photographer. He's become, I think, a brilliant filmmaker. Um, he has a YouTube channel on photography, mostly travel and landscape. But what he's doing right now, he's doing a series that he hopes to attract some significant attention with. And the series is called The Moonstone Forest Farm. So Moonstone Forest Farm. And it is about an advertising guy who decided to leave the city. He bought himself 75 or 90 acres of land, and he's building a sustainable farm in this forest. So he had a lot of it cleared. He's got a house built. I've been up there, and everything that a lot of people sort of dream of, big vegetable gardens. A couple of weeks ago, they built the chicken coop, because every little personal farm needs a chicken coop, and there it is. So my friend Simon, he's recording all of this. So he's got, I think, 3 or 4 episodes up now, and hoping to attract the attention of some bigger companies, and make a series of it.
I think with all of us living at home,
Yeah,
we obviously live at home, but working from
I
home
do.
more. I think a lot of people have. We call it the good life. There's a TV show over here in the UK called The Good Life, where people
Yeah.
vegetables in the back garden and things like that. And if people are doing those kind of shows, I think there's a lot more people that are actually into that kind of movement now. So we'll put a link to that, to Simon's YouTube channel. Is it YouTube channel? Yeah, in the links below, and I'll follow up on that as well. I'm intrigued. Who do you think's an up and comer, Andy? Who's going to be the next Musk or Bezos?
It's an interesting question, and I had thought about that, and I don't have a clear answer for you, but I think what we need more than the next Bezos or someone like that, and I mean, Bezos with his space exploration is kind of interesting, but I think we need somehow, and I'm not sure how this is going to happen, a fresh start in politics, and how we run our countries. I just don't think that the way it's going now is sustainable, and it will take somebody to come up with an idea that enough people will buy into and say, this is a better way to run things.
I think there's something to be said about the way that, as a population of the Earth, we haven't really come to terms with how information is distilled, and how the abundance of social media means that people have lost their ability to critically evaluate information that is being pumped into their eyeballs, and I think that is actually, as we evolve, we'll actually figure out a way of better filtering that information, in the same way that we learn with print media and TV media to realize that something was, to critically evaluate what we were being told. The same kind of evolution, I think, needs to happen for social media. Andy, where's the best place for people to find you online and to find out about your book?
The best place is at the book website. It's obviously, the site is about the book, and there are also blog posts and so on there. which are sometimes excerpts from the book and sometimes it's new information. So the URL is creativeagencybook.com, all one word. And that will get you to the home page and contact information, link to my Twitter account, and so on.
There we have it. Wonderful. Andy is the author of How to Start a Successful Creative Agency, previous founder of 2 creative agencies, which he's spoken about today, one that was sold and the other that he's successfully retired from, although he doesn't sound like he's retired at all with all the work that he's been doing. He managed to get his first customer as a freelancer through a very serendipitous relationship with his boss, where he managed to get a part-time gig with a full-time office, and through introductions with his network, winning one project at a time. Favorite app currently is Word, but he's looking at Word and Adobe Lightroom, but he's looking at Notion in the future. And his most recommended books are generally fiction books, biographies, and art books. Although he is currently reading Wagnerism about his influence on art, a biography on Paul McCartney, Fab, and 2 business books, Atomic Habits from James Clear and The Embedded Entrepreneur by the ubiquitous Arvid Kahl. He loves watching his friend Simon Byrne, the filmmaker, on YouTube with his new project, The Moonstone Forest Farm. And instead of keeping an eye on a new entrepreneur, he thinks that we should be thinking about having a new fresh start in politics, where we can have better conversations to fix the political and information issues that we are, and environmental issues that we are currently struggling with. You can find out more about Andy Strote and his book, How to Start a Successful Creative Agency, at his website that he's mentioned, www.creativeagencybook.com. That's creativeagencybook.com. Andy, thank you for joining us today on the JOD Pod.
Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure. It's been a great conversation.
Thumbs up. And why don't you ask Andy a question in the comment section below? I'm sure Andy will jump in here and answer any questions you've got about entrepreneurialism, about starting creative agency, about maybe moving from freelancer to a more established business. It'll help out this video. It'll help out Andy. It'll help out future guests on the show, and it'll just make you feel a lot better and happier in your life. So hopefully you've been inspired by what Andy's spoken about today. Please go and build something yourself, create something yourself, and inspire the next generation. Thank you for joining us today on the JOD Pod. If you enjoyed this interview, why don't you check out some of these other interviews that we've done on the JOD Pod. More inspirational CEOs, coaches, entrepreneurs, founders, and authors. I'm sure there's something here that will inspire you to build something new.